Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics. In association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. All right, we are back. Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast, the official podcast of WFAT. Another really special guest here today, and thank you for carving time into your day. I know it's been condensed and a dense schedule of late, so we'll jump in with Dr. Melissa Corso here. She played varsity soccer at the University of Guelph during her Bachelor and Master of Science degrees. Her experience fueled her passion for understanding the body, injuries, and strength training. Melissa is now a sports specialist chiropractor and recently opened her own sports medicine clinic, the HIVE Sports Medicine and Performance, which focuses on education, rehabilitation, and performance training of young and developing athletes. She's also a research associate at the Institute for Disability and Rehabilitation Research and is completing her PhD in community, population, and public health at Ontario Tech University. She believes in the importance of hard work, passion, and a positive growth mindset in striving for and achieving one's goals in life, skills and values she has learned and developed through sport and continues to share in her practice with the athletes and the humans that she works with. Melissa Corso, welcome. Appreciate you making some time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
We overlapped a little bit a couple weeks ago. Also, you undertook putting together an amazing conference on behalf of the Royal College of Chiropractic Sports Sciences Division. It's hosted in Toronto, some amazing speakers. So just another feather in your cap for that one. I was there Sunday. It was some really great speakers and a really good opportunity to network and connect with some people. So amazing job there. Maybe we'll dive into that a little bit, but let's start with kind of where you're at and maybe you work your way backwards. How did this vision of the Hive begin, or how did you get to where you're at now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I like to include kind of my past in sport in my bio because it had such a strong bearing as to where I ended up today. And I was kind of one of those kids growing up that was always looking for more information, like how could I become better? And, at the time, the internet was it was there, but, it was dial up and it wasn't as easy as it was now. So I'm trying to find information and it was like, okay, do I trust what's coming up? I don't know. So I've always kind of had this thirst for knowledge and how do I become a better athlete? But didn't really feel like I had the resources available to me to really figure that out. Like I was doing it on my own. And then at Guelph, when I played, not that we didn't have support, but at the time, Canadian athletics wasn't as developed as in the States. I felt like it was like, we're just making our way through. We're playing because we love it. We're practicing, we're injuring ourselves, so many injuries. Yeah. And it just felt like you were kind of being put back together to make it through the season without kind of like that long-term plan. And so that really, drove my desire to kind of be there for young athletes as they're going through their path, right? And I always say, like, I had all of these interests growing up, and I still have those interests. And so I try and at least be that first stepping stone for athletes as they come through the clinic to say, like, hey, yeah, if you want to know about nutrition, what do you want to know? Like, do I know enough to share that? Or do you need to see a nutritionist or a dietitian or whoever that may be? And so, same with the sports psych side, like that mental performance side, right? I know what I know just from what I've looked up, but do you need more than that? And really just trying to give the athletes that I see the resources and the network that they need to be successful if they want that information, right? Because not every athlete wants that, and that's great. And so the idea behind the Hive is it's a community, right? Just like a hive is for the bee. It's a place where everybody's welcome and everybody's part of the team. Everybody has their role. So whether you're a clinician, whether you're a strength coach or an athlete or a parent, this is kind of the place that everybody comes to work to get those resources, but be part of a community as well. And so the feel is meant to kind of be that like family type feel, right? Like everybody should feel comfortable, welcome. My door is always open for whatever anybody needs.
Amazing. And these are, I think these are the things that we don't necessarily see unless we've had the exposure to athletics or sports, right? Like you see the need, you see the desire, you see the potential opportunity as a practitioner to support athletes, but that family feel and that sort of, education piece, I think is massive. So you kind of identified maybe filling some gaps that you experienced playing in Canadian university system, and you're looking to fill some of those. So do you notice any gaps right now, I guess, in sort of the younger and amateur athletes that are, I don't know, repetitive or redundant or pretty obvious that don't seem to be getting noticed anywhere else in your space? I mean, education or training or whatever realm you want to take it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's tough because I feel like in our space, like in the clinical world, we all live in our own silos, right? And so I have expanded out of my own interest, but not everybody is necessarily doing that. And it's awesome if you have the ability to have those practitioners in your clinic. We're not at that point yet. That would be definitely a dream. But to be able to have those resources available for athletes all the time. And I think it's just the difficulty with the system, like it's funding. This is our job, it's our livelihood. And even though we spend a lot of time and effort doing it, at some point, you have to feed your family too. And I would say in the community sport space, which is where I work, it all just unfortunately comes down to that, right? Like, how do we balance the funding that we have with what they need as part of their program? I primarily work with soccer. So, with OPDL programs, they have certain requirements they have to meet.
Right.
Those have to be the priority. So I think that's the hardest thing in kind of like the community space is being able to provide the resources in a way that's effective for the people who want it, because you still have a lot of great athletes who are playing because they love the sport, not because of any ulterior motive, which is amazing. That's what you want. But yeah, I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah. Yeah. The love for the sport and sort of the original impetus to play sport, at least one of them, right? To sort of just keep doing it because you love doing it. I wonder,
Yeah.
having been at the conference and spent a little bit of time with you and around some of the other guests as well, is like, how far can we go to sort of continue to support amateur sport or community sport in terms of educating coaches? I know leagues and spending some time in the hockey world, some of the leagues in and around Toronto have weekend courses for people to go, and all of a sudden they're the trainer and they're they don't have a lot of depth when it comes to concussion evaluation or even return to play, or some people are still
Yeah.
having kids to be woken up every hour after, like, there's information out there, there's misinformation out there. Yeah, so I don't know, do you have a reach into the community? Do you have an interest in doing that with coaches and parents?
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's funny because it's like something that I've tried to do at like a low level, like just within the club that I work with.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, you get these kind of like weekend courses, but sometimes it's hard because we take for granted how much knowledge we have in the area, how easy or how transferable that knowledge can be to somebody else. You're like, oh, for sure, they could learn how to, triage a concussion, or what does this person need to come off or on or whatever. And you're like, well, no, like you spent, the better part of 10 years accumulating knowledge to be able to make that decision. Um, we tried to do this a few times, or I tried to do this a few times, and it's hard. Like the technical directors, so usually the way in soccer where you have like the technical director and then the coaches that kind of come are under them or working with them. And it's like the technical directors have enough on their plate. Like, how do we add one more thing? And then the coaches have however many teams. Like, how do you add one more thing? Um, and so it's been hard to kind of implement that, but I've tried that with a few things, like with concussion and Rowan's law and like that coming forward. That was kind of one opportunity we saw to try and do that. There was also a big push a long time ago now, back when I was in chiropractic college, for the FIFA 11 to be implemented as a warm up and added into the training sessions. But again, it's like you do that course or that education session, and then the coaches are like, okay, sweet, but we don't want to change what we're so used to, or it's easier to do what we're used to.
Right.
Um, and and then that's it.
Yeah, and it just dies on the sword at that point for sure. And
Yeah.
I mean, we know the value of concussion education. We know the value of, neuromuscular training programs and adherence to these programs. The implementation can be really, really difficult. Maybe we'll switch gears, I guess, in terms of education, in terms of imparting wisdom to the recent conference, because I do want to touch
Yeah.
there. I think you did an amazing job. The
Thank you.
RCCSS did an amazing job hosting, and
Yeah.
Dr. Joe Baker and Dr. Nick Waddy and Laura Cruz and a bunch of different speakers and everything like that. You have a lot going on personally, professionally, and you get to put together or be a part of putting together this conference, which was, a long time in the making. Maybe just a synopsis of I don't know. I think it's really interesting on my side to be a part of a conference, but then also to sort of have an understanding of how much this actually takes in order to organize
Yeah.
behind the scenes. So maybe just a semi-brief synopsis of what it was like putting that together, and then what value you took away from hosting and putting that conference together.
Yeah, I mean, all great points and questions and things. And this was kind of the first conference that I chaired or organized from the beginning, where we had like a significant amount of time to plan ahead. The last conference before this one was like when things were kind of coming back from COVID. And so we forced it a little bit to make it work, because we were like, we have to go back in person at some point. When that is, we don't know. But we kind of put that together quickly, and then we're like, okay, let's regroup and do something, change things. And we changed a lot this year, which was like we changed the hotel and the location, and those are like big things to change when you're planning a conference. Not only from the planning perspective, but also like organizing it. Like, I've never been to this place before. We've never worked with these people before.
Right.
How do they communicate? How do we make these decisions? Like, you're kind of showing up and not knowing what to expect. But we have a great committee who kind of like, we split up and delegate tasks. So we have like the person who is in charge for the hotel and the vendors and that sort of thing. So it's definitely not feasible alone. But one thing I think that we really learned was you need kind of like the champion of the conference. You need that person who's super passionate about what it's about. And for me, that was, well, for this year, it was me. And it's like you get the ball rolling. We had kind of like that key person. So we had actually one of the members of the RCCSS who suggested, hey, Joe Baker has a new book out. Why don't you ask him to speak about that? And we're like, okay, that's great. That actually led to the topic. And then once we picked the topic, I was like, yeah, I'm all in. Like, let's do this. And a lot of kind of pulling from everybody's network. Like, hey, what do you think about this person? Have you heard about so-and-so? This is their area of expertise. But also trying to kind of pull people in together who can talk about similar things that are all interrelated. And I felt like that was probably one of the strengths of this year's conference, was it just felt really like natural. There was kind of like a flow about it, like you talk about those bigger concepts like talent identification and really the difficulties and the trouble we have in that area, skills acquisition, which is a little bit more clinical, and then we try to take it more clinical in the afternoon. So but I think the biggest change this year was having somebody who like loved that area, really wanted to learn about that, and then was able to discuss with the speakers like, hey, this is kind of what we're looking for, right? So kind of being more specific as to what they were going to present on, and not just saying like, we have this conference about the developing athlete. Do you want to talk about something in that area? Like,
Yeah, right.
So, and being able to say like, okay, we want to talk about early sports specialization and we want to go in this direction with it. So I think that was really helpful. And then being able to plan, far enough in advance, right? So I wasn't sure if I was walking the line on like too many emails, not enough emails, like, hey, you should know this. Oh my gosh, it's coming up. Like I looked at the calendar and I'm like, it's a month away. Like a month is no time. We've been working on this for a year. I should probably email them and remind them it's happening. Are they going to show up? Like, so those types of things. But it was really key to also have like big players. I mean, Scott, you've known for a long time, like he's just like so key on communicating with like the big guys, like the hotel. We had a social on the Saturday night, which was awesome. So kind of coordinating those big things. And then Chris, another good friend of mine who did the vendors, and like that takes a whole chunk off your plate. But I think from the concept, right? Like it's having a strong concept, and then, who's in our network. And we wanted to keep it fairly local and saying like, there are some big names that we could bring in, but there's also a lot of knowledge and a lot of connection in the GTA. And let's try and take advantage of that, right? Because like you said, like networking is such a big part of it. It'd be awesome to be able to make those connections that, I can refer to so-and-so, or if I have a question, I can reach out to them and they might have an answer or get kind of help me along the path to where I want to go and all of that. So
yeah, and sort of resonating this hive mentality or this community family mentality, but in the space of a conference and an education, symposium essentially for the weekend. So the conference, the conference was a success, certainly in being a part of it and attending it. It felt that very much that way, connected, fluid, all these kinds of things. At the end of it, when you can put your feet up, if you have yet, what were your sort of your major takeaways from it, either knowledge wise or just, I know you just touched on organizing it and putting all the things you didn't know or thought you knew, but might have had to do a little more, a little less. Major takeaways from the weekend. I mean, I'll just start by saying, being a part of it, having an opportunity to be a part of it. The interdisciplinary approach goes such a long way, in my opinion, that it's like, yes, it's hosted by the Sports Sciences Division of the Royal College of Chiropractics, but having, MDs, having orthopods, having strength coaches, or various therapists, various practitioners there, I think allows everybody to see and feel that although it is semi-territorial out there and trying to earn a living, building a community has nothing to do with territory and everything to do with, impactful wisdom, knowledge, and sharing that. So really well done on pulling everybody together in that. I think that was certainly my takeaway, and the vendors seemed to support that as well, which was really great, just walking around chatting with them while they were there. But your takeaways, which matter way more than mine.
No, I appreciate that perspective, and I'm also like grateful for that, because that is kind of what we're trying to do, right? Is have those different perspectives. And what I found really interesting was like we kind of all ended up in the same place. Like we're all trying to do the same thing, like you said, right? Like in real life, when you're working and you're seeing these athletes and you're working with these people, sometimes you can feel like I don't want to share that, which is so silly, right? But that's never going to kind of get you to the end, right? Like you have to share that to do what's best for that person in front of you. And it just felt like the speakers that were there had that same mentality. Like at the end of the day, the person that you're working with was really in the middle of that. And we can talk about people-centered care all day, but actually having practitioners who are working towards that, who have that mindset in practice, I think was refreshing. And it made you want to, you know, work with them and say like, hey, if I have somebody who needs their help, like I'd be happy to refer them, so that way we can work together. And sometimes that's the hard part, I think, in that, even in within, you know, our own networks, is saying like, okay, I want to help this person, I want to be able to help them along the path, but I want to still be involved. I still want to know what's going on in their life as they're going through that, even though they're not seeing me per se.
Right.
So I think from that perspective, it was really great. I mean, it's nice to just feel that connection again, that like in-person connection, and I think that most people could feel that energy. But yeah, the interdisciplinary approach was great. Just selfishly, like the nutrition and the psychology side of things, like Joe Baker speaking on talent ID and skills acquisition, like all of that was like, you know, Christmas for me. But truthfully, it was hard for me to fully enjoy and be in the moment.
Of course, worried about all the things. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I joked with some of my colleagues. I was like, you know, I have a weekend away from the kids at home, but I'm taking care of like 150 other people.
You're right.
So
It never ends. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, like I was saying earlier, definitely a bit of that conference hangover and recovering after that. But it was worth it in the end, just to kind of have that that feeling of everybody being back together and learning and being invested. And like you said, the speakers really helped to support that atmosphere as well.
Yeah, amazing. A really great conference. Next year's obviously a year or so away, but next year's
Yep.
planner, are you involved? Are you directing? You're directing how to direct? What's happening for next year's conference?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
lessons learned for sure is like, okay, it's awesome to be the chair and help organize and coordinate things, but like being the chair and the champion is a lot. So it just so happened to be that way this time around, but we have another champion for next year's conference, which is optimizing human performance and longevity, which will be really exciting. And we already have kind of like a list of people we are hoping to reach out to, and just getting the ball rolling early so that we can kind of get those people locked in. Good speakers like you.
I don't know about that, but always great speakers, and human performance and longevity sounds like a good one. Another step,
Yeah.
Another great opportunity for everybody to learn. And I think, you know, if we can help through this podcast, that was part of the MO, was to be honest, to have you on, tell your story, but also celebrate the fact that your conference that you managed and took on was such a success. And I also want to have that out there for, you know, we're primarily athletic therapists or strength and conditioning coaches. I think it's really important to have those people in the room as well. Although it has chiropractic, you know, sports science is on the title of the conference, that doesn't mean you can't attend as somebody who's not a sports chiro or a chiropractor in general. I think it makes for the environment, the drinks, the social at night is a great opportunity to sort of break down and get to know the speakers as well, who all kind of hung around, and the vendors to share, and just sort of like passion and the topic and the field of performance. So I just wanted to, you know, on my side, put that out there to the resources or the network of people, the community that we have listening to this podcast. So feel free, you know, reach out, RCCSS on Instagram. You can find them there. You can find Dr. Melissa Corso here. We'll leave her contact information in the podcast notes as well. And just don't ask her about setting up next year's event. She's done.
Yeah, not yet. Recovering.
Yeah, still recovering and a lot on the go. Maybe just a spin just to your own space for the last little bit here. Don't want to take up too much of your time, as I know you are sort of amidst many things. Your practice, the Hive, a passion project that turned reality. Like, when did you begin to realize, like, I really love this stuff and I'm actually doing it, and now I'm doing it in like a space that I really love doing with like a community that really, really matters and values what I do. I think that's such a great lesson. Like what, I guess maybe back that up and like, what did it take for you to jump all the way into your own space and just do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I did my sports residency program at CMCC, and that's obviously when I started practice at the same time. So I got to work with some great mentors, Scott Howitt, Andrea Ospina, Michael Chivers, and I just learned from them and kind of took that opportunity. It wasn't like a super busy time for me because obviously I have these experts in the field, and their patients want to be seen by them. But I got to kind of see their approach, their communication, their confidence, which is, as a new grad, something that you're still learning, right? And so I knew that I wanted to come back to Unionville and Markham because I grew up here. And I kind of found a clinic to work at that was in close proximity to where the club trained. And the approach kind of didn't mesh with what how I was treating. And so I worked at a bunch of different clinics along the way. And I think my patients, when they finally came here, they're like, another clinic. And I'm like, I know, but it's mine. So I'm staying. Like, it's not, but every place you go, I think there's something to learn, whether it's something you want to do or something that you don't want to do. And I kind of had my like strength and conditioning stuff on one side and then the clinic stuff on the other side. And I was doing them in parallel. I wasn't doing them together. And the last clinic I worked at, they did it together. And I was like, this is amazing. I didn't know that these things that I was doing separately could actually fit together. And it wasn't until I worked there that I clued into the rehab and the recommendations and the education that I'm doing on the clinical side is just as valuable for those performance people, athletes, as it is to the clinical patient who's in pain or who has an injury. And being able to put them in one space actually increases the value for everybody involved.
I love it.
And so the location wasn't ideal in the previous clinic. And then I went on maternity leave and I was like, okay, you know what? Let's just do it. And I was lucky because I've always had these ideas in the back of my head, but it's hard to, like you said, it's hard to make that jump. So my dad actually helped me. And so we partnered. He was recently retired. He was doing some contracting and he is on the business side. So he pushed me. I just had somebody in my corner to push me when I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
Like, finding a realtor, like that's a big step. That means that you're going to look for a space. And I'm like dragging my feet and he's like, I found us a realtor. Like, let's go. Okay, let's go. And that, so just like those big steps that you're like, that's scary because it means that something's actually happening. I can sit in my room and make the plan all day and say, this is what I want it to be called. And this is what I want the logo to be. And this is what my mission is. And these are the values that we have. And it doesn't matter because it's not a thing yet. Right. So those steps that make it a thing are the hard parts. And it's like that commitment to say, like, I believe that this can be possible. So to have somebody kind of there pushing me in those moments was helpful.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's community, right? Like I grew up playing here. So the technical directors of the club, like they coached me when I was 12. And it's awesome. And they love too that you can say like, hey, this player used to train with us. She grew up playing here and now she's back and she's here to make us better and provide more resources and do more things, right? So again, that family feel, like it is a community because they helped raise me into the player and the person that I am. They saw me when I was like that horrible teenager, that like the emotions and the passion and all of those things weren't controllable yet. But they're still here, right? And they're still guiding and helping and doing all those things. But then you actually are able to give that back to them. So it's like, yeah, when is that moment where you realize you're doing it? I don't know. Like anytime we have the team in here and you have the parents being like, this is awesome. Like, I wish we had this, or I used to play, and, kind of people who have that same experience.
Yeah.
or like having a team in and seeing them progress. Like we had a team of like 12-year-olds last year that started with us, and I was like, this is gonna be awesome. 12-year-old girls. I'm like training with them. I haven't trained in a long time because you can't do it all. Um, I'm like, this is gonna be awesome. And then like throughout the season, you just see like the confidence. Not just like, yeah, you have like the physical abilities, but they're 12, like they're going through any kind of training program, they're going to get better.
Mhm.
The confidence, like the comfort that they had. Like I had one girl who like had a bad day at school and she just totally broke down. And you're like, okay, well, like let's talk about it. And then she comes back to training. Right. So just that you see when you have the teams and the players and the people there who feel what you've been trying to create. Like those are the moments where you're like, man, this is awesome.
Uh, Beautiful, and congratulations on jumping into that as well. And
Thank you.
never easy. And some cheesy line would say you just have to leave, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah.
and keep doing the things. But amazing to have partners, amazing to be surrounded by people who support you and care about what you're doing. And I think that's natural when you find something that you're obviously passionate about and deeply
Yeah.
involved and educated in. So congratulations on that.
Thank
Um,
you.
I know there's another baby on the way here, and so
Yeah.
lots of things happening in your world. The Hive is where you're at. It's out sort of Markham Way, obviously, and
Yeah.
as you mentioned, we'll leave your contact information should anybody want to get in touch. But for our listeners out there, this is a great story, obviously, and some really great shares today, Melissa. Dr. Melissa Corso with us on Let's Chat, the official podcast of WFAT. I'll leave you with the last words wherever you want to take it. I think your willingness to come on, your willingness to put yourself forward, to champion for the things that you care about, to organize 150 other bees that are all flying in different directions for a conference, and get them to come back to the Hive and show up on time and make things happen and really share the space. Unbelievable conference put on by the Royal College of Chiropractic Sports Sciences in Toronto here in November. Another one, obviously, it's annual, so we'll happy to plug that for the future as well. And then your own spot, your own vision, your own values. Really, congratulations on that. I think it's really important that you keep putting that out there, and that our network and our community hears that there are people that are open to interdisciplinary approaches and sharing the space and really building something that matters, and not necessarily always about getting the injury better faster than anybody else, but that's certainly part of it, caring about the human being behind it. So Dr. Melissa Corso, I'll leave this with you to wrap up however you wish. Thank you so much. Always grateful for your time, and an amazing conference, and best of luck with the pregnancy, best of luck with the Hive. I'm sure we'll be in touch as we move into the future, but over to you to wrap it up.
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you for having me on. It's been great connecting and learning from you and hearing your perspective as well. And like you said, always open to discussing, chatting, learning. It isn't just about chiropractic or physio or AT, whatever it is. It's, everybody has something to offer. So always open to connecting. And like I said, my door is always open. So thank you.
All right, amazing. We'll get this out to production, and to all our listeners out there, stay connected, get in on the conversation, join the conversation, reach out to myself, reach out to our guests, in this case, Dr. Melissa Corso. Connect and stay connected, because that's what matters. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com. CONSULT@firststartherapy.com. On Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.